Welcome back to another video, folks. As you can see by the title of the video, we're doing something a little different this week, and we're excited to share it with you.
These are 12 books that changed our life for the better, books that are ingrained in our DNA at this point, and ones we think about frequently. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
First book on the list is Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. This book is what made me realize the power of our brain and our thoughts and how that can affect our biology. Made me realize how real the placebo effect really is, how capable we are of healing ourselves, and how maybe the industry or whatever doesn't really want us to know how powerful thoughts can be. But yeah, so this book was a big game changer in the way I approach illnesses, goals, and energy, and so much more. So 10 out of 10. Yeah, love it.
To preface most of this, we've both read all of these books. So my first book is The Lion Tracker's Guide to Life by Boyd Vardy. The way that he writes it is really great storytelling. You can just see everything happening. And he's a lion tracker, spoiler alert. And he really just compares, following your life's path to them tracking lions in the wilderness. And one of my biggest takeaways with it was that you don't need to know where you need to go in life as long as you know the next step that you have to take. Another thing about this book is that it can resonate with probably anyone, no matter what age you are, what you do. I think this book will definitely really strike a chord with you. I know it did for us.
My second book is the Tibetan book of Living and Dying. This book came at a really beautiful time. I actually read it during COVID. So when all of that was going on, the way they look at death is completely different than our Western society. So it was a nice change of perspective. After reading this book, I now feel more equipped if someone I knew were to fall ill and go through the process of dying, how I would like or help them go through that process, and look at it more of a celebration and transitioning. This book makes me feel more confident in the way I want to live my day-to-day life and make me feel more comfortable and aware of how I would like to transition from this life. Death is always a weird topic, but it's inevitable. Definitely give this a read. I think about it often. That's why it's on this list.
Next up, The Cloud Spotter's Guide. If you had a million guesses, you probably would have never guessed this book. I love clouds. I always look at clouds when I'm surfing, when we're on hikes, when I'm driving in a safe way. But they're always there, and it's not something that we really think about or really appreciate that deeply, in my opinion. And the way that Gavin Pretor-Pinney describes clouds and just talks about clouds will make you really appreciate that world that's just always above our heads that we don't really acknowledge as much as maybe we should. You'll learn about all the different kinds of clouds. You'll learn about some really rare clouds that you might never even see in your life. And really something else that I took away from this book, other than just a newfound appreciation for clouds, is just the weather. You really could predict whether or not a certain kind of cloud is actually going to rain, which is really cool. Highly, highly recommend this book. I recommend the physical copy as well. There's really cool pictures of clouds in it, of course, as there should be. So pick this one up. You won't regret it.
For my third book, I actually don't have the physical copy, but I'll put it right here. This book, Walden, is the first classic book I've read in a very long time. I had to write down what I wanted to say about this book. So I said, Thoreau, which is the author, weaves together his reflections on solidarity, society, human nature, and nature itself for one big symphony of what we call life. I had to do him the honor of writing something juicy and deep because that is what this book is all about. One big thing that I really took away from this book and what I think about frequently is the different encounters he has throughout the book and the different reflections or contemplations he goes through is a lot like what I have and a lot of us contemplate and think about a century later. So it's really cool to just see humanity reflecting in that way and just knowing that it wasn't much different back then for some things. Definitely recommend it. It again is a very dense book, but take it slow and just marinate in its beauty.
Book number three, my lord, is The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwarz. I'm someone who gets really overwhelmed by like simple decisions. Like if randomly, I want to buy like a candy bar at the store, I'm like, oh, there's that one. I like that one, but I also like that one and that one and that one. So he really breaks down everything in society today, where, you want to go buy milk. There's 10 different kinds of milk. You want to go buy laundry detergent? Good luck. You want to buy cereal? I don't eat cereal, but if you want to go buy cereal, good luck. There's just so many choices for everything we do. And he talks about ways that you can just be less overwhelmed by all of that in today's society. And he wrote this book in, I think, 2007. So now it's even more important, I think, to read this book because we just have too many choices. Like I said, I'm prone to overthinking, and he talks about, in life you can be a maximizer or a satisficer, which pretty much a maximizer is someone who looks at all their options for everything all the time, or a satisficer is, once you get to what you were saying would be a satisfactory choice, just stop there. At the end of the day, only overthink things that you know are a really important decision. So next time I go get a candy bar, I'm just going to grab a Kit Kat.
For my fourth book is called The Way of the Rose by Clark Strand and Perdita Finn. So I'm going to try to explain the impact this book had on me without going too in depth about my religious background. But basically I never felt fully comfortable going to church or institutions. It always felt like something was missing, and this book helped fill that gap for me. So husband and wife both wrote this book, and they basically intertwine ecology with spirituality, as well as kind of explain to you how to pray the rosary. I never grew up knowing anything about a rosary. It is not a Catholic book. Yeah, they just relate this to Virgin Mary or many of her other names that have been passed down in different civilizations. She goes by different names, but yeah, it's really cool to get the history of that, the history of the rosary, and kind of their own personal experience. But I think about this often because I feel like the feminine kind of just gets washed away in our religious infrastructures these days. So a little bit of balance.
My next book's a little bit of a snooze. It's called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. He's the leading sleep researcher in the world. He's been on Andrew Huberman, Modern Wisdom, on Joe Rogan, a bunch of podcasts. And really, this book is so important and so worth the amount of knowledge that he gives you about sleep for whatever it costs for the book. Obviously, we sleep for, 30% of our lives. So why not sleep the best we can? We all know we should sleep 8 hours. It should be really dark in the room. But why should we sleep 8 hours? For some people it's more, for some people it's less. It's something that I think about often when I sleep really good and when I sleep really bad. Highly recommend it because, like I said, we spend so much time sleeping, so it's a really good investment in yourself.
Next up on the lineup is The Hidden Life of Trees. After reading this book, a walk through the forest is never the same. It definitely enhances your experience. You appreciate what's going on around you more, and kind of just having the knowledge of what's going on beneath your feet. It talks about the mycelium network that helps trees communicate. Talks about the different cycles of the trees. Another point this author brings up that really stuck with me is how trees are family and they'll help a fallen soldier, and that blew my mind. They are just more intelligent than I thought. So of course this little thing is always going to be on my mind if we're out in nature. Highly recommend if you're into nature. If you're not into nature, that's our planet. I don't know. That's all I gotta say, but yeah. Love this book. Always on the mind.
My fifth book is Breath by James Nestor. Again, one of those things where we all breathe every day. Sometimes it's voluntary, most of the time it's involuntary, but he goes from the surface all the way down to everything about our breathing, best practices for breathing, and it's just one of those books that I can't help but think about almost every day because, like I said, we're always breathing. And he gives you really easy tips for just breathing better, and it's so simple. And some of it has gotten really popular over the last, 4 or 5 years because of James Nestor. It's all really great stuff. And some of it's even connected to your sleep. So I think the combination of breath and why we sleep is just fantastic for your overall health. Really fun read too. He does some cool experiments in it. So I hope you get a chance to read Breath.
Last one on the list for me is The Body Keeps the Score. Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma. Before this book, I'm going to be honest, I really didn't think about trauma. It wasn't something on my mind, probably because I don't have, an intense experience with it. But after reading this, I feel so much more informed, and I have more compassion for those that have extreme cases of trauma. You get a lot of science in this book, you get a lot of personal stories, but what I really appreciated is towards the end, he goes over different modalities that one could take on the path of healing. And I think about this sometimes when I'm doing yoga, because a lot of people say issues in the tissues. So when I'm stretching and a random thought comes up, maybe from the past, I'm like, that is crazy. The body really does hold on to trauma or past experiences like that. And just interesting to know that trauma is able to change our biology in such insane ways.
My final book is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Yes, not The Art of War by Sun Tzu, The War of Art. And I'm sure we've all been in a time where, we had maybe like a creative slump or just a moment where things feel really stagnant. And, at the end of the day, our biggest obstacle is really ourself. I think that Stephen Pressfield puts it in a way where, that it's, a part of you that's just holding you back, not something where you should be like, oh, why am I doing this to myself? But there's just a part of you that you can just push past. And that resistance, which is what he calls it, is what's just holding you back from so many things, So just do things to just start getting the ball rolling. That's really what it's all about. It's a really quick read, so it's super worthwhile. Like, there's no reason to just pick up this book real quick. Like I said, even if you're not like a super creative person, just will help you realize things that it'll just help you realize what is keeping you stagnant, no matter what area of your life it might be. It'll help open your eyes.
So yeah, those are our 12 books that changed our life for the better.
Hope you enjoyed. Hope you get a chance to read at least one of them. A couple of them are pretty short.
If you've read some of them, let us know in the comments and what your thoughts are on them. It's always nice to read someone else's point of view, get out of your head, and learn something along the way.
Definitely. And throw some recs in there.
Yes.
Maybe your top 3 nonfiction specifically books.
Yes. It was hard to pick 12.
Yeah.
But next time I want to do fiction because we are big fantasy readers.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. Stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.